Over the past 25 plus years, Nintendo has had quite a bit of Mario RPGs to hit the shelves, from the original Super Mario RPG on the SNES, to the Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi series respectively, and of course a couple of RPGs that are not in a series. There are a total of 14 different Mario RPGs, and like with any ranking, this list is completely subjective. One more note, I will not be talking about any remakes or remasters, just the original versions. It is based on my personal enjoyment of each game. With that being said, my name is Marcelo and welcome to Game Domain. I hope you enjoy this list. Let's start off with the worst Mario RPG in my opinion. At number 14 we have Paper Mario Sticker Star. I do not like this game and I have been pretty vocal about that. There are just so many objectively bad design choices, and it still baffles me at how Nintendo made a very similar sequel to this game. It looks nice and has a pretty good soundtrack, but that's about it. There's absolutely no story for a series that was known for having some plot to keep the player engaged. And this was the successor to Super Paper Mario, widely regarded as having the best story in any Mario game. You could find a story in New Super Mario Bros. That's on par with this. Besides the story, there are no unique characters or environments. Remember how everyone loved the brand new characters in the first 3 games and the really weird and unfamiliar environments in those games? Well, Sticker Star has Goombas, Koopa Troopas, Shy Guys, generic Toads, and Bowser as the main villain and characters. And you have unique environments like grasslands, deserts, jungles, and a frozen tundra. Wow. The battle system is completely pointless as there's no XP. You're better off avoiding enemies and using your stickers for mandatory boss fights. Now let's talk about the backtracking. Many Mario RPGs have backtracking and it works to various degrees, but Sticker Stars is just so horrible and stupid. It seems like no thought was put into it, and all you do is go into random levels and hope you can find the specific thing you need to advance in the later level. There aren't really any hints or anything, just random exploration. One of the few semi-redeeming qualities in this game is the soundtrack is, alright. Nowhere near the level of the other games, but it certainly does its job. But I really can only remember a few songs from the game. Overall, I really don't like Sticker Star, and it was not difficult at all to put it as the worst on the ranking. Number 13. Puzzles & Dragons Super Mario Bros. Edition. This game seems to be really forgotten, as I almost never hear anyone talk about it. It is technically an RPG though, which is why it's on this list. Personally, this isn't just my type of game. I had fun with it for a bit and think it's a very well made game, but I just couldn't get into it. It's clearly taken a lot of inspiration from New Super Mario Bros., so there aren't any rich story elements or unique locations and characters. It's just Puzzles & Dragons with Mario elements in it, so if you're into that genre, I think you'll have a good time with it. Number 12. Mario & Luigi Paper Jam. This now 6-year-old game was the latest new entry to the Mario & Luigi series, and could possibly be the last with the bankruptcy of Alpha Dream, which we did talk about in our documentary from a couple of years ago. This game is not very good. It's the Mario & Luigi series' Sticker Star. Bland locations, the same old characters, minimal story elements, repetition, etc., etc. At least with Paper Jam there's at least XP, so you have a reason to battle. I actually like the idea of having paper characters in this universe, which is why this game is so disappointing to me. You have a chance to bring back so many beloved characters from the first 3 Paper Mario games, but instead it's just the typical Koopa Troopas, Goombas, Toads, and Bowser as the main villain, again. Paper Jam at its core is a stripped-down Mario & Luigi experience, with some flat-out boring elements like the Toad hide-and-go-seek and the papercraft battles. I just don't think one of the main selling points of this game should be the papercraft battles, as they're not fun. They just feel clunky to say the least. The soundtrack is alright, but definitely the weakest of the series. It's really sad how such a legendary series may have ended with this. And I'm not counting the Superstar Saga and Bowser's Inside Story remakes. Number 11. Paper Mario Color Splash. Color Splash is a better game than its 3DS predecessor, but still not a great game. I'll start off with the positives. The soundtrack has such a unique theme as many of the songs have a pseudo-jazz ragtime feel to them, and you can really hear the orchestral sounds in many pieces as well. The game also looks fantastic. I'm not a fan of the whole obsession with making everything paper. I prefer the first 3 games simply using it as an art style and not having the entire game be about paper, but it looks great nonetheless. A little tangent I want to go on for this. The last time I said I'm not a fan of the whole paper obsession. The humor is also pretty enjoyable, but after that, that's where many of the positives run out. The story still feels like an afterthought, and once again, the environments and characters just feel uninspired yet again. Bowser is the main villain. Again, well, kind of. He is possessed by the black paint. The battle system is also once again pretty pointless. The only value it has is you can upgrade the amount of paint you can store, but it doesn't really do that much as you can already store plenty. Additionally, it is super tedious as it takes forever to use a card. You have to select it on the gamepad, fill it with paint, swipe up, rinse and repeat. Color Splash really just feels like an improved version of Sticker Star, but that really isn't saying too much. It took a bad game and made it kind of mediocre instead of flat out terrible. Get it? Flat out, because paper is the... because paper's flat. Okay, moving on. Number 10. Paper Mario Origami King. I know a lot of people, especially younger fans, love Origami King. And while it was significantly better than Color Splash and it took more steps forward from where Color Splash was, it still feels more like the modern Paper Mario games than the original trilogy. I just don't like this style nearly as much as I do the others, so there's only so much I could really enjoy. Unlike the previous games on the list though, I genuinely enjoy Origami King. The other games on here I either did not like or just thought they were mediocre. I think Origami King is a solid game. The soundtrack is absolutely amazing and gets better the more I listen to it. The world is a lot more open this time as you don't have a world map going level to level. The main villain throughout the game is King Ollie, so for the first time since Dream Team, there's a truly unique final boss unless you want to count the black paint. Partners are kind of back. You don't control them at all, but it still is something, and like with Color Splash, the game looks fantastic. However, the story, while better than the recent 2 games, still doesn't hold up to the original trilogy. Everything is still paper except some bosses, which I'll get to in a moment. As I've said before, it was called Paper Mario as the design was just supposed to take inspiration from a storybook, not have the entire world actually made out of paper. This is the 3rd game in a row that they're doing this, and I'm just not a fan of it. There are definitely some more unique environments than the past 2 games, but once again, it pales in comparison to the original trilogy. The combat system is better now as it doesn't have stickers or cards, but there are still no experience points, which puts little incentive into battling. Even Color Splash had more incentive to battle. The board you move enemies around on is an interesting concept, which I think plays out alright, but I still very much prefer the original style. I mentioned how I would talk about some bosses that were not paper, and if you played Origami King, you already know what I'm getting at. There is the Legion of Stationery, which is office supplies that you fight. Thought it was a neat little concept, but I still would prefer to have more fleshed out villains like in Super Paper Mario. It still seems like Nintendo is hellbent on just improving the Sticker Star formula instead of either completely changing it up or making a sequel to either Thousand Year Door or Super. Yes, I know Origami King is different from Sticker Star, but it still shares a ton of the same aspects and problems. Number 9. Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. This crossover has absolutely no business working as well as it does. It combines the Mario series, the Rabbids series, and has them fight in XCOM-style battles. It was received so well that it's getting a sequel this year. I'm not usually a big fan of tactical RPGs, but I had a really good time with Kingdom Battle. It was also pretty challenging, for me at least, since I'm not very experienced in the genre, and most Mario RPGs are fairly easy, so it was a nice change of pace. A knock on the game is that there isn't much of a story, and that it kind of feels like a gauntlet of battles compared to this grand adventure, but the combat is so well designed that I couldn't put it any lower on the list. I'm really looking forward to the sequel as well. Number 8. Mario and Luigi Dream Team. Dream Team is a really fun game. It takes the Mario and Luigi series to a new perspective, and the Dream Worlds are a breath of fresh air from the franchise. The Dream battles just give so much more creativity. The Dream abilities are really fun to use, especially in combat. It's different from real-world battles as you have a huge group of Luigis to use in attacks. Part of being in a dream means that the final fight may be a fight where Luigi becomes a giant and you fight a giant enemy. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's something else that was in Bowser's Inside Story. You even turn your 3DS on the side just like in Bowser's Inside Story. That was one of my favorite parts of Inside Story, so I'm glad it got to return for this adventure. As for the story, you go to Pillow Island, where you do have some of your basic Mario locations mixed in with some new terrains. Luigi goes to a castle and ends up falling asleep on a pillow that gives him the ability to have the previously mentioned dreams. The main villains are Bowser and Antasma. Antasma wants to cause destruction to the Pillow civilization and wants power. Antasma's no Fawful, but is definitely an interesting villain. Some flaws with Dream Team are the tutorials at the beginning that just go on way too long. I think the game overstays its welcome also, as it becomes a bit of a slog towards the end. Overall, still a great experience, but every game that follows this I think are all masterpieces. Number 7. Super Mario RPG: Legend of the Seven Stars. This was before my time as I really got into gaming in the mid-2000s. Had I played it when it was new, there's a good chance it would have been higher, as even playing it close to 2 decades after its release, I still thought it was a fantastic game, worthy of all the praise it's been given. It is a little dated, which is the root of many of its flaws. It's the first Mario RPG, so this is where a lot of the ideas that would become staples in Paper Mario and Mario & Luigi started. The timed hit system is one, but it's not nearly as polished as any game in the Paper Mario series. The writing isn't the greatest, which is to be expected from the first time there was an actual attempt to make the story more than just an afterthought for a Mario game. The movement in the overworld is a bit clunky, etc. However, what this game does well, it does really well. The soundtrack has so many memorable tracks, it has a great cast of characters, most notably Geno, who is still a fan favorite today. This is the first time you get to really team up with Bowser, and this journey feels like a classic RPG adventure. This is the Mario RPG that would definitely benefit the most from a remake. Number 6. Mario & Luigi: Bowser's Inside Story. I've seen a lot of people put Inside Story as number 1 on their list, and it definitely does seem to be the popular choice to be 1 or 2 on Mario & Luigi game rankings, but as you could tell, it's my 3rd favorite game in the series. Before I get to my full explanation of why it is number 6 on this list, I just want to talk about that carrot minigame. I got Inside Story when it came out back in 2009, and it was one of the first games I got at release, and having played both Superstar Saga and Partners in Time, I was really looking forward to playing Inside Story. Every day after school, I would continue to progress through the game until I got to the carrot minigame, which I was stuck on for like a month. I absolutely hated it. Anyway, for the rest of the game, I really liked the concept of having both these worlds to explore, but I do think it could have been executed a little better, as I thought the Mario and Luigi sections were a lot weaker than the Bowser sections. It being in 2D does limit it, and I know that obviously there's only so much variety that can be put in when they're stuck inside Bowser, but the overworld in Bowser sections is just so much fun to explore, and I did enjoy the puzzles there better as well. It is a nice change of pace to have these Bowser battles added in for some variety. The writing in Inside Story is some of my favorite in the series, as Alpha Dream also got to bring back some classic characters like Fawful and Popple, while adding in a lot of unique faces. The completion time of Inside Story also feels perfect. It doesn't drag on, and it doesn't feel like it ends too soon. Like with pretty much every game on this ranking, the soundtrack once again is amazing, and the final boss theme is just a masterpiece. Number 5. Mario & Luigi: Partners in Time. Like with Inside Story, I have a story with Partners in Time as well. I had just finished Superstar Saga, and found out it had a sequel that came out a couple years ago, so I wanted to pick it up, but since this was a time before online shopping wasn't as big as it was today, I kept trying to find it in stores, but no one had it in stock until I went to a GameStop and they only had 1 copy left. I love the time travel aspect of Partners in Time, and I thought the Shroobs made for really interesting villains. The map was disconnected as each area was traveled to via portal instead of the more open exploration seen in the other games in the series, but it makes up for it with how greatly designed these places are. Yube's Belly, which is actually the second time the Mario Brothers get trapped inside of a big reptile/dinosaur, Thwomp Volcano, Holly Jolly Village, Vim Factory, and just so many more locations in this game are brilliantly designed and feel really fresh to the series. The game is not perfect though. Instead of bro points or special attacks, there are items that you find or buy. I think this system is a lot weaker than just having bros points. The pacing is off in terms of how strong you're going to be in relation to where you are in the game. You're most likely just going to have to grind out some XP instead of just naturally progressing. As for why Partners in Time is ranked higher than Bowser's Inside Story, even though that's a pretty unpopular opinion, it's as simple as this is a completely subjective list based on my enjoyment of each game, and I just happen to enjoy Partners in Time more. Number 4. Paper Mario 64. This game deserves a lot of credit for starting off this series on a great note, and laying the groundwork for the games to follow. The story isn't the best, but there is at least an attempt with it. The Peach interludes are a great way to get you more engaged in the story, and it does get a pass for having Bowser as the main villain, since this was the first Mario RPG to do so. But there are just so many brand new, unique characters from the partners. The Toads that actually have distinct personalities, new bosses, and NPCs. There are also new locations like Shy Guy's Toy Box and Flower Fields, and there's more going on in the typical environments like the grasslands and desert compared to the regular Mario adventure. Paper Mario also had a brand new battle system where every bit of damage counts. You won't be doing 20 points of damage with an attack, so you need to think about what you're going to do. The customization with badges adds more strategy in as well, with all the different options at your disposal. Paper Mario is just an amazing game that started this great series. Number 3. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. My favorite Mario & Luigi game, my third favorite Mario RPG, and the first Mario RPG I have ever played. Also, I am aware my ranking of the Mario & Luigi games goes from newest to oldest. My ranking just happens to be that way. Like with Paper Mario, Superstar Saga started off this series with a bang. Every single successor has followed the same basic formula of Mario and Luigi traversing through an overworld, using and getting new abilities like hammers, a higher jump, and a spin move to go across gaps. The Bean Kingdom is a ton of fun to explore, as it introduces so many new and quirky characters, as well as brand new locations to explore. One of my personal favorites is Woohoo University, where the main baddies are the viruses from Dr. Mario. And spoilers for an almost 20-year-old game, this is where you fight Cackletta for the first time, which was a huge surprise. I was expecting to fight her at the very end, not halfway through. You still do fight Cackletta at the end, but inside of Valletta, and it is actually Cackletta's soul, which is a really hard boss fight made even more difficult since the bros start with 1 HP each. The rest of the game is fairly easy, but the fights just feel so smooth, which is even more impressive considering this is the first game in the series. Number 2. Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. This game pretty much improved on the original Paper Mario in every aspect. Story, gameplay, combat, characters, environments, soundtrack. Thousand-Year Door took what made the original great and just made it better. The partners have more personality as they didn't really have much in the original. There are some really amazing and unexpected chapters, such as joining a league where you keep battling in hopes to finally beat the legendary Rockhawk to win it all. There's a mystery on a train that has a private investigator penguin attempting to solve it. You even go to the moon at the end, a whole 13 years before Odyssey did it. The battle system is also greatly improved over the original, and even puts you on a stage with an audience that can both assist you or also try to hurt you. Thousand-Year Door also has a more interesting story, with the new villains being the X-Nauts, led by Sir Grotus instead of Bowser. Then there's also the Shadow Queen, which makes this game a whole lot more dark. There's just so much more to say about this game that makes it so amazing. You have the Pianta Mafia and Rogueport, which by itself is something you could talk about for a while. It's not just a typical Mario location. You have the amazing soundtrack, which I believe to be the second best in the series. All the hidden secrets, the humor, the new gameplay mechanics that come from the curses. Thousand-Year Door is a masterpiece, and one of my favorite games of all time. But I do think there is one Mario RPG that's better at it, though. Number 1. Super Paper Mario. Every subjective ranking I have done before has Super Paper Mario at number 1. But beyond it being my favorite Mario RPG, it is my favorite game of all time, so obviously it's going to be my favorite in the series. It's a controversial opinion, but it's just that, an opinion. If you don't like Super Paper Mario, I won't change your mind on it, and you won't change my mind on it because we can't just control if we enjoy a video game. Different people just enjoy different things. What a shock. The script is something else. The story is absolutely amazing, and something that really has and likely won't be seen in a Mario game again, with how anti-story Miyamoto has been since Super Paper Mario and Mario Galaxy. In fact, there's so much lore in this game that we made a video going over every bit of lore in the game, and it took over 30 minutes, which you can check out. The link is in the description. There are brand new villains like Count Bleck and Dementio, which make this game a whole lot darker, like with the Shadow Queen in Thousand Year Door. Count Bleck wants to destroy all the worlds due to a tragic event in his life, and there's a few very good twists surrounding this later in the game. The soundtrack also, in my opinion, is the best of any Mario RPG. There's just countless amazing songs like The Ultimate Show, Gloam Valley, Merle's Mansion, Sammer's Kingdom, and just so many more. While the game is pretty easy, it's also fun to explore all the environments in two different perspectives. As for the environments themselves, let's just take a look at a few. There's a sweatshop located in a giant mansion, a world completely made of bits, a Japanese-inspired kingdom that pits you against samurai-inspired characters, the underwear, which I believe represents between heaven and hell, and the over there, which is meant to represent heaven.